Cenk Uygur's fiery personality meets Piers Morgan's confrontational style in some of the most explosive debates ever caught on camera. These aren't polite conversations, they're intense verbal battles where interruptions, outbursts, and ego clashes take center stage. Every moment feels unpredictable, with Cenk refusing to back down and Piers pressing harder, creating viral showdowns that ignite massive public reactions. Viewers don't just watch these clashes, they relive them, argue over them, and turn them into cultural flashpoints. This is where politics, personality, and raw emotion collide, and the result is unmissable television. Cenk Uygur's clashes with Piers Morgan on Uncensored have become some of the most explosive political showdowns on modern television. From the very beginning, the chemistry between the two was bound to combust. Piers thrives on confrontation, pressing his guests until they snap, while Cenk is known for his unfiltered, passionate delivery that refuses to be boxed in. When these two forces meet, it's less of an interview and more of a political battlefield, with each side determined to prove their dominance in front of a global audience. The debates often start in a deceptively calm manner. Piers leans in with his signature tone, sharp questions loaded with a challenge beneath the surface. He knows exactly how to trigger strong reactions, and with Cenk, the spark comes almost instantly. Whether it's about U.S. foreign policy, the state of democracy, or the culture wars dividing America, Cenk launches into his arguments with full force, speaking at a rapid pace, throwing out statistics, examples, and passionate rhetoric all at once. The energy in the room quickly shifts as viewers sense the inevitable clash about to unfold. What makes these encounters so gripping is not just the subject matter, but the way each man frames his points. Piers tends to push the conversation toward morality, accountability, and media hypocrisy, while Cenk focuses on systemic failures, corruption, and the consequences of policy decisions on ordinary people. The contrast is striking. One speaks like a cross-examiner in court, the other like a revolutionary rallying a crowd. This duality ensures the debates are never dull, and the tension escalates with each exchange. One of the most powerful elements of these showdowns is the way Cenk refuses to let Piers control the pace of the conversation. Most guests fold under Piers' interruptions and challenges, but Cenk pushes back harder, raising his voice, cutting in, and at times almost overpowering Piers on his own stage. This creates a dynamic that feels less like host versus guest and more like two rivals locked in a public duel. For viewers, that raw back-and-forth feels unpredictable and unpolished, which makes it more compelling to watch than a typical polished debate. The topics themselves add fuel to the fire. When discussing American politics, Cenk hammers away at what he sees as the hypocrisy of elites, the corruption of money in politics, and the dangerous polarization tearing the country apart. Piers challenges him with tough questions about extremism, partisanship, and the left's role in the same division. Neither gives ground. When the conversation shifts to global conflicts, the intensity rises even further. Cenk brings his outspoken criticism of U.S. foreign interventions and corporate interests, while Piers tests him with questions about morality, consistency, and whether his positions hold up under scrutiny. These debates don't just cover surface-level disagreements, they dig into the core of how power operates in the world, and the stakes feel much higher. The showdowns also reveal how both men thrive on tension. Cenk's passion sometimes tips into shouting, his face reddening, his hands moving as if he's addressing a live rally. Piers, by contrast, leans back slightly, almost smirking, letting the outburst play out before landing a sharp retort to bring the argument back into his court. The rhythm of these interactions is almost theatrical, with viewers waiting for the next escalation, the next line that might become the clip circulating online the following day. Part of what makes these moments go viral is the authenticity. Neither man is playing a polite game, both genuinely believe they're right and see the other as dangerously misguided. This sincerity, combined with the high-stakes topics, makes the arguments feel raw and unscripted. Viewers aren't just watching two people disagree, they're watching a clash of worldviews, a battle over truth, power, and morality in real time. That authenticity is what keeps audiences glued to the screen. Social media reactions amplify the spectacle. Clips of Cenk slamming the table or Piers cutting him off mid-sentence spread instantly, sparking debates among fans and critics alike. Some celebrate Cenk for refusing to bow to Piers' aggressive questioning, praising him as a voice for justice. Others accuse him of being too emotional, too reactive, and say Piers exposes his weaknesses by remaining calm under fire. The polarization of responses mirrors the very topics they argue about, turning each showdown into more than just television. It becomes a cultural moment. Ultimately, the explosive political showdowns between Cenk Uygur and Piers Morgan are compelling because they embody the chaos of modern politics itself. They are loud, passionate, divided, and relentless, yet impossible to ignore. Both men understand the performance aspect of debate, but they also believe deeply in their positions, and that sincerity transforms the clash into something bigger than either individual. It's not just a battle of egos, it's a fight for narrative control, a struggle over who defines reality, and for viewers, it's a front-row seat to one of the most dramatic spectacles in political commentary today. When Cenk Uygur goes head-to-head with Piers Morgan, it isn't just a political debate, it's a full-on personality clash that feels like a collision between two immovable objects. Piers thrives on provocation, wielding his sharp British wit and relentless questioning to put guests on the defensive. Cenk, on the other hand, is fiery, passionate, and unapologetically blunt, refusing to let anyone bulldoze his arguments. When these two styles meet, sparks fly, and the atmosphere becomes less of an interview and more of a showdown between clashing identities. What makes their exchanges so gripping is that they embody opposite approaches to debate. Piers relies on control and precision, structuring his questions like traps and waiting for his guest to stumble. His calm exterior is designed to make his opponent appear more emotional, more unstable. Cenk is the complete opposite. He barrels into arguments with intensity, raising his voice, gesturing wildly, and letting his emotions fuel his delivery. To his supporters, that passion makes him authentic and fearless. To his critics, it makes him look reckless and unhinged. Piers knows this and uses it to his advantage, staying composed while Cenk grows louder, creating a contrast that is impossible to miss on screen. The clash of personalities goes deeper than just style, it's about how each man sees himself. Piers sees his role as the truth seeker, the one exposing hypocrisy and asking the tough questions others shy away from. He relishes the image of the sharp, no-nonsense interviewer who refuses to back down. Cenk, however, positions himself as the fighter for ordinary people, the one who refuses to bow to elites or play by polite media rules. He believes that raising his voice and showing outrage isn't a weakness, but a reflection of the urgency of the issues at hand. When these two worldviews meet, neither is willing to concede even an inch, and the result is a combustible dynamic that pulls viewers in. The tension builds every time Piers interrupts with a smirk or a sarcastic remark. For many guests, that tactic works, they stumble, laugh nervously, or backtrack. But Cenk pushes back harder, talking over Piers, refusing to let him dominate the exchange. He doesn't play along with Piers' game, and instead tries to set his own pace, often with a torrent of words and fiery rhetoric. That resistance fuels Piers even more, who thrives on testing how far his opponent will go before losing composure. The audience, meanwhile, sits on the edge of their seats, waiting to see who will crack first. Another layer of the personality clash is how both men represent very different types of charisma. Piers is polished, measured, and strategic, appealing to viewers who respect calm authority. Cenk is raw, emotional, and visceral, appealing to those who value honesty and intensity over polish. Their charisma collides like fire and ice, with each side convinced their approach is the more compelling. This duality is exactly why their interactions go viral. Viewers can project their own frustrations, beliefs, and values onto the debaters, choosing sides not only based on arguments but on temperament. What makes it especially fascinating is that neither man is intimidated by the other. Cenk doesn't shrink under Piers' piercing questions, and Piers doesn't flinch at Cenk's booming interruptions. Instead, they escalate each other. The more calm and condescending Piers becomes, the more fiery and combative Cenk grows. The more Cenk leans into outrage, the more Piers smirks and doubles down. It's a feedback loop of clashing egos that makes the debate feel like a heavyweight boxing match where every round is more intense than the last. These clashes also highlight how personality often overshadows policy in the media arena. Viewers may not remember the exact statistics Cenk rattled off or the precise wording of Piers' questions, but they remember the energy, the tone, and the dominance of each personality. They remember Cenk's raised voice and sharp hand gestures, and they remember Piers' calm stare and sly interruptions. These moments stick not because of the content alone, but because of the theater of two strong personalities colliding in real time. The aftermath of these showdowns often mirrors the clash itself. Supporters of Cenk celebrate his refusal to be silenced and his willingness to meet fire with fire. Supporters of Piers celebrate his ability to stay cool under pressure and expose what they see as Cenk's lack of control. The divide becomes less about who had the better argument and more about who displayed the stronger persona. In that sense, the personality clash becomes a proxy for larger cultural battles over emotion versus reason, passion versus composure, authenticity versus authority. At the heart of it, the reason people keep tuning in to watch Cenk Uygur and Piers Morgan clash is not just because of what they say, but because of how they embody two very different styles of power. One channels raw emotion to break through barriers, the other uses precision and restraint to assert dominance. Together, they create a volatile energy that feels unpredictable, dramatic, and impossible to look away from. It's not simply an interview, it's a collision of identities, and that's exactly why audiences find it so captivating. When Cenk Uygur and Piers Morgan share a stage, the debate rarely stays calm for long. What starts as a back-and-forth conversation almost always erupts into viral outbursts and interruptions that dominate social media feeds the next day. These moments aren't accidental, they're the natural result of two men with oversized personalities, both determined to control the narrative, colliding in real time. For viewers, this is exactly what makes the exchanges so addictive. The shouting, the interruptions, the sharp retorts, it all feels raw and unscripted, like a verbal boxing match where anything can happen. Cenk is known for wearing his emotions on his sleeve. When he feels passionately about an issue, he doesn't hold back. His voice rises, his gestures become bigger, and his words pour out with urgency. To his supporters, this passion feels authentic and refreshing, a sign that he genuinely cares. But in the high-pressure environment of Piers Morgan Uncensored, that passion often escalates into full-blown outbursts. Whether he's slamming his hand on the table or cutting across Piers mid-sentence, Cenk's fiery delivery grabs attention immediately. The internet loves these clips, short, intense bursts of outrage that can be shared and dissected within seconds. Piers, of course, knows exactly how to draw this side out of his guests. His style is built around the art of interruption. He rarely lets a point go unchallenged, often cutting in before his guest has finished speaking. With someone like Cenk, this creates instant friction. Cenk pushes harder, talking over Piers, determined not to be silenced. Piers doubles down, interrupting again, trying to regain control. The result is a chaotic overlap of voices that feels more like a shouting match than a structured debate. And yet, this chaos is precisely what hooks audiences, because it strips away the polish of traditional interviews and reveals the raw tension underneath. The viral nature of these moments lies in their unpredictability. At any second, Cenk could explode into a passionate tirade, his words pouring out faster than Piers can interject. Just as quickly, Piers might shut him down with a sharp, cutting remark that flips the energy of the room. Viewers don't know who will dominate in the next 30 seconds, and that unpredictability keeps them glued to the screen. Online audiences feed off that drama, memes, reaction clips, and heated comment threads explode around each interruption and outburst, ensuring the clash lives on long after the cameras stop rolling. Another key element is the sheer contrast in their delivery styles. When Cenk is mid-outburst, his energy is explosive, red-faced, animated, almost shouting at the camera. Piers, meanwhile, often counters with a calculated calmness, smirking as if to say he's still in control. This contrast makes each interruption more dramatic. To one side of the audience, Cenk looks like the fighter refusing to let his opponent get away with anything. To the other side, he looks out of control, while Piers appears like the calm authority exposing weakness. Both interpretations drive engagement, because people don't just watch, they pick sides, argue, and amplify the moment across platforms. Interruptions also change the rhythm of the debate. Instead of long, reasoned answers, the clash becomes rapid-fire, with each man trying to outtalk the other. This creates a sense of urgency, as though the stakes are too high for politeness or restraint. That urgency translates perfectly into viral content. A 10-minute policy discussion might not trend, but a 30-second clip of Cenk erupting after being cut off will spread like wildfire. These clips condense the drama of the entire interview into a bite-sized package that audiences can instantly consume and share. What's fascinating is that both men benefit from these viral moments, even as they battle for dominance. Cenk gains visibility as the passionate fighter who refuses to be silenced, rallying supporters who admire his refusal to play by Piers' rules. Piers gains credibility as the host who can provoke such intensity from his guests, showing that his interviews aren't just conversations, they're events. Neither man loses in the long run, because both understand the currency of viral media: outrage, conflict, and unpredictability. The audience plays a crucial role too. People don't just watch these outbursts, they react, dissect, and argue about them. Some celebrate Cenk for standing up to Piers' interruptions, insisting that his fire is necessary to cut through empty rhetoric. Others argue that Piers exposes Cenk's flaws by staying calm while his guest spirals. This division fuels even more engagement, because the outbursts become more than just moments on a show, they become cultural talking points. At the heart of it, viral outbursts and interruptions matter because they capture the spirit of modern debate: messy, emotional, and deeply human. They strip away the illusion of perfect civility and show the raw battle of personalities and ideas. With Cenk and Piers, every interruption feels like a jab, every outburst like a counterpunch, and every silence like a moment to catch breath before the next blow. It's not just television, it's spectacle, and that spectacle is what keeps audiences watching, sharing, and talking long after the cameras stop rolling. Every time Cenk Uygur clashes with Piers Morgan, the fallout doesn't end when the cameras stop rolling. The public reaction and backlash that follows is just as explosive as the debate itself. In fact, the aftershocks are often bigger than the original interview, as clips circulate online, hashtags trend, and audiences around the world choose sides in the clash. What happens after these showdowns is a phenomenon in itself, because people don't just watch, they participate, fueling the fire that turns an on-air argument into a cultural flashpoint. The reaction usually starts immediately, with clips flooding social media within minutes of broadcast. The loudest outbursts, the sharpest interruptions, and the most dramatic soundbites are instantly clipped, captioned, and shared across platforms like Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube. These snippets condense the clash into short, high-intensity bursts that go viral almost instantly. For many viewers, this is their first exposure to the debate, and the framing of those clips often shapes their perception. A clip highlighting Cenk's fiery outburst paints him as the bold fighter, while one showing Piers calmly smirking as Cenk rages paints him as the composed victor. The story of the clash is told and retold by millions of people who weren't even watching live. Supporters of Cenk tend to rally around his passion, praising him for refusing to be silenced or steamrolled by Piers' interruptions. They argue that his anger isn't weakness, it's authenticity, a reflection of someone who cares deeply about injustice and refuses to sit quietly while power goes unchecked. These supporters flood comment sections, defending his intensity as a necessary antidote to Piers' smugness. For them, Cenk's fire is exactly what politics needs: less polish, more honesty, more fight. On the other hand, critics often seize on the same moments to portray him in the opposite light. They argue that his shouting and interruptions show a lack of discipline, making him look unhinged or unable to handle tough questioning. They praise Piers for staying calm, for keeping composure under fire, and for exposing Cenk's tendency to lose control. This group sees the clash not as proof of passion, but as proof of weakness. The polarization of reactions mirrors the political divides both men thrive on, turning the clash into a proxy war between competing ideologies. The backlash doesn't stop at casual viewers. Commentators, podcasters, and influencers often jump into the fray, dissecting the exchange frame by frame. Some will declare Cenk the winner for overpowering Piers with facts and emotion, while others will crown Piers the victor for keeping his cool and making Cenk look too emotional. Each analysis feeds back into the online storm, ensuring that the debate remains relevant long after it aired. In this way, the public doesn't just react, they become part of the show, carrying the clash into new arenas where it can spark even more division and discussion. Another fascinating element of the backlash is how it fuels both men's brands. For Cenk, these reactions solidify his image as a fighter who refuses to bow to mainstream media figures. Even negative reactions can serve him, because they reinforce the idea that he is challenging the status quo and rattling people who don't want to hear his perspective. For Piers, the backlash proves that his strategy works. His interviews are not forgettable, they are events. The louder the outcry, the more his show trends, and the more credibility he gains as a host who knows how to create must-watch television. The debates also ignite broader conversations about media itself. Some viewers praise the chaos as proof that real debate is finally happening in mainstream outlets, while others criticize it as nothing more than manufactured spectacle. Either way, people are talking, sharing, and reacting, and in the media ecosystem, attention is the ultimate prize. The backlash, whether positive or negative, guarantees that both Cenk and Piers remain central to public discourse. What makes the public reaction so engaging is its emotional intensity. People don't just watch these clashes, they feel them. They see their own frustrations, beliefs, and identities reflected in the arguments. Cenk's fire might remind them of their own anger at injustice. Piers' composure might validate their belief in calm authority. These emotional connections drive people to defend their chosen side passionately, turning a debate into a movement of online voices battling long after the guests have left the studio. At its core, the backlash shows how powerful these clashes have become in shaping the cultural conversation. A heated exchange between two strong personalities becomes more than just television, it becomes a mirror of society's divisions, a rallying point for partisanship, and a catalyst for endless debate across platforms. And that's exactly why audiences keep coming back. They know that when Cenk and Piers collide, the impact doesn't stay in the studio. It reverberates across the internet, across cultures, and across dinner table conversations, ensuring that the debate lives on far beyond the broadcast.